Hello everyone from sunny Moscow, and yes, you heard it right. It is a warm, sunny day here, and it will stay this way at least for the next couple of days, which is definitely great anomaly for this time. Today we have a plus temperature. Yesterday was a plus temperature. Tomorrow is gonna be like +3 uh, Celsius, or day after tomorrow +6 Celsius. And if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, I reported that 2024 was the warmest year for Moscow since the recording or observation began. And that is over 200 years. And I guess 2025 will be another record-breaking year in this regards. Definitely anomaly in terms of weather conditions. It feels like it is early spring now, and it's a midwinter, isn't it? It's January. So yes, global warming is real, dear friends, for sure, and humans have nothing to do with it. It's if you ask me, it's all about our solar system, activity of the sun. Magnetosphere of our planet, and many other nuances that humanity has no say in and will have no say, at least before we will reach first type of civilization on the Kardashev scale, which is not going to happen for another, I don't know, 200-300 years at least. And who knows what kind of surprises this global warming is preparing for us. But it is real, and when you think about, it is becoming more and more clear why forces that are behind Trump, for example, are that keen to establish control over the Greenland and Canada, for example. It's all about control of their at least some parts of Arctic that these forces want. It's all about northern sea route, which is definitely has a huge potential, and Russia already demonstrated that Russian northern sea route is actually working, and up to 40 million tons of goods were transferred through northern sea route last year alone. And US wants its share also in this business, and nothing to be said about all the riches under the ocean there in the north, right, on the shell. But yes, it is clearly anomaly, and when it comes to anomaly in weather conditions, today I want to start our update with another weather anomaly that occur on opposite side of Moscow on this planet, in California state of US, where emergency situation is declared, and as you all know, dear friends, entire neighborhoods in Los Angeles area have been burned down. In many places fire has been extinguished because there is nothing left to be burned. It's a horrifying scenery there. Many of you, of course, seeing this emerging photo and video materials from California. And well, some very strong statements already been made in regards to local authorities that are governing California so poorly that they were unable to manage this emergency situation or to avoid it completely. But what I want to start this update right now is this report that Biden declared emergency in California. I translated this news, so let's go through it a little bit. So US President Joe Biden has declared a major disaster in California to help local authorities cope with the consequences of the severe wildfires raging in the state. The White House said people will be able to get grants for temporary housing, home repairs, low interest loans, to cover damage not covered by insurance and other support to restore their homes and businesses. The administration said in a statement the decision will open access to federal aid for residents of Los Angeles County. Federal aid will also be sent to local governments as well as to some non-profit organizations for emergency work. In addition, the money will be spent on measures to prevent natural disasters in the future across the state. FEMA Representative Curtis Brown has been appointed responsible for coordinating the aid. As noted by the White House, the assessment of the damage caused to California by these fires is still ongoing, and the aid may be expanded to other areas and other types of support. Biden also canceled the previously planned visit to Italy, aimed the fires to focus on coordinating the response to the fires. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said, well, I don't know what Biden gonna coordinate, and if he even understands that California is a part of US. I mean, does he know that? I'm not quite sure about it, but it is a huge disaster that is happening in California, and I guess this disaster will be wake-up call for many locals that voted for these woke idiots in a state to run and basically ruin California for decades and decades, right? And I guess one of the consequences of that is exactly what's happening now, because local authorities clearly were unable to avoid this disaster, first of all, if it was avoidable. And if not, then it is clear that management of the situation crisis was definitely extremely poor, and many public figures in US, even politicians, by the way, are now outraged with the situation, and very strong statements being made on in this regard. Many of you are familiar, of course, with it. I would not go into details, but well, it is most likely going to be for sure a wake-up call for many residents of California. Either they will leave this state for good, or if not, then they will probably demand some better management for the future. And these woke gender fluid psychos definitely not gonna do the job, and they already proved that. Anyways, dear friends, let's continue with some other news now. And for example, I want to focus on this report from Financial Times. I spoke about this article in this Western media outlet yesterday in the second update on Patreon, but I think it's worth to pay attention to it in this update also on main channels. Quite interesting article emerged on Financial Times, which may be indicator that among Western ruling class, at least among some groups in Western ruling class, realization of objective reality has settled in, and if so, maybe we will see some more articles in the future, like this one, because these groups will definitely want to lay down ground for changes that will inevitably happen when it comes to attitude or approach of Washington and the collective West in general to Ukraine. So Western countries should avoid perceiving the conflict in Ukraine as a decisive factor for the world order, writes the Financial Times. The publication notes that it does not matter what the potential peace deal will be or what concessions Kiev will agree to. It is important to understand that this conflict should not be viewed as a global clash that could change the international order. The author of the article also noted that the United States and Europe should focus on achieving a reasonable peace deal that is beneficial for Ukraine. At the same time, the journalist advises avoiding excessive hype around the fighting. Ukraine is not the center of the universe, the observer concluded, emphasizing the need for an adequate perception of the situation. And dear friends, when you last time hear or read anything like that from Western media? I cannot remember. And when I saw this news yesterday, I mean, I was a bit surprised. And first what comes to my mind was exactly what I already said, that there seems like certain groups among Western ruling class are forced already to face the reality. And they are in sort of damage control mode now, and they're authorized actually, in my opinion, Financial Times to come up with such article and downgrade importance of this Ukrainian crisis immensely, right? I mean, Ukraine is not the center of the universe, and all these situations should not present it as some sort of main historical event. And that kind of attitude is something really, really new, because what we were hearing from Western propaganda until now is that it's all about fight for freedom in this world and democracy and this and that. And we all understand, the well-informed part of society worldwide understand perfectly well that this proxy war that West is waging against Russia has nothing to do with their freedoms or democracy, right? It's all about power and control that our Western ruling class wants to maintain, right? But narrative was that, you know, this was a major clash between democracy and freedom and totalitarianism, right? What they don't call us, they call us everything that they can come up with, right? And now this article, which is downgrading Ukraine and Ukrainian crisis immensely. And I guess this is a first step, dear friends. And most likely in upcoming days, upcoming weeks, we will see more and more articles in this manner, because yet again, I guess damage control mode is already being put in place by at least certain groups in the Western ruling class, and they will try to even most likely minimize coverage of Ukrainian crisis, so that when Western ruling class will be forced to capitulate basically and agree to peace deal on Russian terms, there will be not too much outrage in the West, in the public, because for all these years, very same public was told that this is existential crisis, right, for humanity, and it's so important that hundreds of billions of money of Western taxpayers have to be directed towards this crisis. And now what? It no longer means anything. So some people, at least in the West, not gonna be happy about this stuff. But yet again, we all know how powerful propaganda is, and I guess if Western ruling elites already are working on this damage control and already are authorizing such articles, it will not take too long before they will have enough influence on the public in the West, so that whenever Western ruling class will finally agree on Russian terms to end this proxy war, there will be not too much disturbances in the Western social fabric due to that. Exactly opposite might even happen. You know, through propaganda means they might even present whole this story as a huge victory for humanity, because, well, finally peace was achieved, isn't it? But anyways, significant change in the narrative or the propaganda. This is beginning, by the way. This is just the first steps that we are observing, and more to come for sure. And you will definitely notice it. Anyways, let's continue with some more news. And RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian air defense systems on duty intercepted 15 Ukrainian drones that were launched during the nighttime, early hours of this morning, to strike deep into Russian territory. No reports about casualties on the ground or any more or less significant damage for this moment, although if any update on that, of course, I will share additional information on my Telegram page or page on Twitter X and in the next updates. Also, by the way, Russian Defense Ministry updated information on the casualty, on losses of Kiev regime in the Kursk salient area since the beginning of invasion. And well, according to Russian Defense Ministry, Kiev regime's forces and NATO mercenaries already lost more than 50,000 military personnel in the Kursk salient area, which is our entire army, as I have said there quite a number of times before. Also, Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that Rheinmetall, German company in military industrial complex, giant actually, in military industrial complex, started providing Kiev regime with the latest infantry fighting vehicle in their production, which is Lynx. On this photo is not the Lynx, by the way. This is some sort of tank. This is not the Lynx. Lynx looks a bit different, but anyways, according to this reporter, in the later December, towards the end of 2024, basically, Kiev regime received first batch of these Lynx infantry fighting vehicles. And if you ask me, I will say that it is highly likely that all these latest deliveries of the weapon systems to Kiev regime, tanks, artillery pieces, infantry fighting vehicles, and so on, armored personnel carriers, all majority of these weapons eventually probably will end up in a new grouping of forces that was created by NATO and their proxies in Kiev, with this squaring designated sign. I spoke about this new grouping of forces that was spotted in Chernigov region, isn't it? And since then, I mean, there is constant speculation on the internet in which direction NATO might use this new grouping of forces. Will they use them to invade Belarus? Will they use them to invade the Bryansk region of the Russian Federation? Or maybe they will transfer this grouping of forces towards Belgorod region to invade there. There are plenty of speculations. Maybe this grouping of forces will be used to attack, conduct offensive, let's say in Zaporozhye direction, to reestablish control over the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Hard to tell. Obviously, only few people really know in which direction this new grouping of forces with this square designated sign can be used, but my guess is that all these latest deliveries of infantry fighting vehicles, including Lynx, armored personnel carriers, tanks, artillery, and so on, majority of those weapons eventually will end up in hands of that new grouping of forces, and obviously will be destroyed. Obviously will be destroyed eventually, no matter in which direction this grouping of forces will be used. As another grouping of forces of Kiev regime with a triangle designation sign was and is destroyed in the Kursk salient area, right? We will find out, by the way. Speculations are that NATO and the Kiev regime might start deploying this new grouping of forces before inauguration will take place in US, inauguration of the president-elect, and that means that well, in next 10 days probably we will know better if there will be invasion of in any direction or not. Yet another suicidal operation on part of Kiev regime and NATO. Let's see. But meanwhile, media in Ukraine and also in Russia are reporting that Zelensky is threatening now main political rival with criminal charges. So Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky could press criminal charges against former military chief Valery Zaluzhny if he challenges him in the next presidential elections. Ukrainian outlet Telegraph reported on Wednesday Zelensky refused to hold elections and stepped down as president last year, citing the conflict with Russia, and new date for the vote remains unclear. According to Telegraph, Zelensky has already decided to run in the next election, with the earliest possible date being May 2025. The timing depends on developments in the conflict and whether US President-elect Donald Trump manages to mediate the conflict. With a trust rating of 52%, Zelensky still has a chance to win. Telegraph noted, by the way, I don't believe that Zelensky has 52%. No way. No way. This Telegraph is clearly inflating big time level of support for Zelensky. This is my personal opinion. Anyways, however, Zelensky's chances plunge if Zaluzhny, who is currently Kiev's ambassador to the UK and is considered the Ukrainian leader's main rival, enters the race. Zelensky is reportedly using a carrot and stick strategy to influence Zaluzhny and keep him out of presidential race. His administration is said to have offered the former general the top spot in the Zelensky's party and the role of parliamentary speaker if he agrees to back the president. However, if Zaluzhny runs for president, he could face a criminal investigation, including a probe into 2022 fail of the city of Kherson to Russian forces. Sources suggested that Zaluzhny's name could be tied to a case at the politically opportune moment. So, well, looks like Zelensky and his criminal associates, his inner circle, completely lost touch with reality, and they really don't understand what is going on, because I don't think they are in a position to really blackmail Zaluzhny, because Zaluzhny has backing of London. And Zelensky no longer considered, as far as I understand, the main puppet by the Western ruling class. Exactly the opposite. It seems like Western ruling class is determined to remove Zelensky from office, and most likely, as I was saying for a very, very long time, and most likely he will be replaced by Zaluzhny, exactly, right? Especially because nowadays seems like US administration and yet again, at least some groups in the Western ruling class are quite determined to end this proxy war that they are waging against Russia and focused on some other areas, right? And if that is the case, then, well, they will have to acknowledge Russian positions, right? In every way, including Russian attitude towards Zelensky's personality. And, well, Russian leadership was very clear on this. Russian president and many other high-ranking officials said directly that Moscow don't consider Zelensky as a legal president, right? Because his mandate has expired. And only legal institution right now in Ukraine, according to Ukraine's constitution, is a state rada or parliament, right? So if Washington under Trump's administration, Western ruling class in general will really try to, end hostilities and end this proxy war that they are waging against Russia, they will have no option but to force Kiev to conduct presidential elections and then to put in charge someone with whom Moscow might talk, right? And I'm quite sure nobody in the Kremlin has any appetite to have any negotiations with Zelensky, by the way. I mean, he's just, he's done. He is finished, right? In every way possible. So he has to be replaced, and it is now headache for Western elites how they will replace Zelensky and with whom. And Zaluzhny may be one candidate. I don't think Moscow will be happy with the prospect of negotiating with Zaluzhny, but I can see that Moscow can at least hold the talks with him if he is a president of Ukraine, right? Although obviously many people will keep in mind that Zaluzhny is affiliated with the neo-Nazi formations in Ukraine, neo-Nazi movements in Ukraine, and this is maybe a big deterrent, and most likely will be big deterrent for Russia to have a talk with him too, and therefore some other candidates, by the way, West knows this, isn't it? And if West really serious about ending hostilities, then they might bring into game some other names also. And for example, Arestovich, former aide of Zelensky, who recently had an interesting interview with the PBD. And I spoke about this interview in one of my second updates on Patreon. And I said then that maybe his appearance on PBD podcast is not a random stuff, because after all, PBD crew is definitely has close ties with Trump inner circle, right? Trump was guest on the PBD podcast, and I guess appearance of this personality, Arestovich, was a part of some bigger game plan that maybe in a play on part of Western elites, right? And on part of, let's say, Trump's administration. So, but in any ways, this is a headache for Washington, for London, for Western elites. They have to come up with ways to remove Zelensky and put someone in charge there, at least formally, with whom Moscow will have less reasons to not talk, right? And in this regard, Arestovich definitely in a better place than Zaluzhny, because Arestovich, I mean, he can be criticized for many things, right? He has some quite crazy stuff in past, but at least no one will say that he's had any affiliations with at least any strong affiliations with Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists and all those terrorists, right? There. While Zaluzhny has such affiliation. Anyways, some very interesting changes are going to happen in Kiev-controlled territory in near future, and well, let's see if my reading of big picture on this topic was correct. We will find out soon, isn't it? But definitely Zelensky is destined to get out, and some other personalities in Ukrainian politics are about to get in to this geopolitical game. Meanwhile, RIA Novosti is reporting that well, Kat Kellogg, official or future official representative of Trump in Ukrainian crisis, in regards to Ukrainian crisis in Ukraine and Russia, had an interview, and he made quite a few interesting, I will say, statements. And you can see a headline here in Russia, by the way, on state-run media or state-financed media, which is RIA Novosti, right? News agency. Headline says that Trump will refuse to compromise with Putin in the Ukrainian topic, and this is headline, right? So that's how, at least RIA Novosti, that this is what impression RIA Novosti had from Kellogg's interview. And when RIA Novosti is publishing article with or news with such a headline, it gives you at least indirect understanding how administration of president here in Russia viewed that interview of Kellogg or his statements, right? And well, if Trump is not willing to compromise, then what is the point in talks? Because Russia cannot compromise on anything. It's all about Russia's national security interests, right? And where is the Russia? Where is the Ukraine? And where is the US? One should always keep in mind objective realities on the ground, right? But anyways, let's go through this news. US President-elect Donald Trump does not plan to make concessions to Russian leader Vladimir Putin on the issue of resolving the Ukrainian conflict. Kat Kellogg, a special envoy for Ukraine in the Republican administration, said on Fox News, it is important to understand that he is not trying to give something to Putin or the Russians. In fact, he wants to save Ukraine and its sovereignty. He said, Trump, according to their special envoy, intends to seek a settlement of the conflict on fair and honest terms. He expressed confidence that the president-elect will soon find a way to resolve the conflict in the framework of negotiations with Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Zelensky. Kellogg also called the biggest mistake of outgoing US President Joe Biden to refuse a dialogue with the Russian leader on resolving the conflict in Ukraine. And Kellogg also said that Trump's administration will try to resolve a conflict in the first, or he has at least this timeline to prepare ground for final resolution of the conflict in 100 days. Okay, we will find out. But yet again, if Trump, his inner circle, are misinformed, ill-informed, or not capable to face reality, objective reality, if Western ruling class is not yet ready to finally face the reality and basically capitulate, that's what they're gonna do, man. This is not a negotiations, right? Let's be clear on that. Russia won this war that Western ruling class started against us, right? Russia has won this war. So therefore, there is only one way this conflict can be resolved now. And this one way is a capitulation of the Western ruling class. I don't give a damn how Western propaganda, Western public figures, politicians will wrap it up. They might present it to their own public as a greatest victory ever. I don't care, but fact of the matter is that they have to capitulate. And peace will be reached on Russian terms. That's it, period. You know, if they are ready, okay, I guess Moscow is ready for a long time now. But if Western ruling class or Western so-called elites need some more time, if they want their faces to be smashed a couple of more times then okay, we will do it. We will do it. But eventually they will face the reality. They will just have no other option, right? They've been humiliated, Western ruling class, by the way. I mean, let's be real here. They were acting as if they are on top of the world, isn't it? And right now, entire world is watching and thinking, I mean, we were afraid of these suckers. Look at them, man. They were acting as if they are, you know, gods, sort of, you know, that they are all powerful and they can do everything on this planet. And look, man, it's a 3 year since they start this proxy war against Russia, and they are losing, right? They are losing. And there are people worldwide, including elites, by the way, in the countries, are looking at this and saying, I mean, why we were afraid of these nobodies, man? Why? They are not that all powerful, seems like, right? And this is big change, by the way. This is big change. That's why I'm saying Western ruling class is on its final down spiral towards its final end, right? I don't know how long it will take before this generational clans or generational families that robbing this world for the last 300 to 500 years. I don't know how long it will take before these criminal clans will finally get decimated It's going to be process, isn't it? But it is already on, and this process cannot be stopped. They are on their final down spiral, and that's it. And I don't know how long it will take before they will realize that they have no option but to capitulate now if they want to prolong their existence a little while. But they will come to this realization today, tomorrow, in a year's time, 2 years time, but they will come to it. It is what it is, and it will be better if they will do it now. It will be better because that will save lives of the people, which is most important. Let's continue, dear friends. And well, we have this report on RIA Novosti also that armed forces of Turkey are on high alert. Well, some reports are suggesting now that in a relatively short time, maybe even in upcoming days, we might see combined military operation of Turkish armed forces and pro-Turkish terrorist groups in Syria against Kurdish militia that is in control of northern western parts of Syria. Turkey issued their ultimatum, seems like final ultimatum to Kurdish forces to lay down arms and acknowledge Damascus authority. Kurdish forces refused to do so. And I guess this region is facing now yet another big crisis, military crisis, which is going to be struggle between Turkish forces, pro-Turkish terrorist groups, and Kurdish militia. Question is right now what the position of Washington is, because for quite a while we did not hear anything from Pentagon, from White House, where their stand is when it comes to Kurdish allies of US and the Kurdish forces. There were allies of Washington for decades and decades, by the way. This didn't start there now. Western countries had close ties with the Turkish political and armed groups, PKK or YPG or rest of them, for a very long time. And now, surprisingly, there is silence in Washington, in London, in Paris, in Berlin. Nothing is said about where their stand is, and will they allow Turkey to basically overrun Kurdish militias or not. And that silence can be seen in Ankara as if West is basically not opposing military operation that Turkey may start in upcoming days. I don't know. More clarity definitely is needed, but in any ways it seems like this part of the world will face yet another escalation, military escalation. Also, by the way, TASS news agency is reporting that, well, according to Reuters, Trump, president-elect of US, wants to buy Greenland to further increase US influence in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, let's I mean, basically there is different articles on internet all about Greenland stuff, about Canada, Panama Channel, and almost all the articles that I read are somewhat similar, that this is attempt of Western ruling class and forces that are, you know, behind the Trump to basically establish control over the major waterways that have better chances to be secure in the future, because it is clear that world is going down towards some very harsh times, isn't it? and current traditional waterways most likely will not be as safe as they were in past decades. Just take a look at the Red Sea, by the way. Houthi rebels were able quite effectively to basically almost completely shut down navigation in the Red Sea, right? And if certain parts of the world are moving towards constant instability, then traditional waterways definitely are under threat. And if you take a look at the map, well, it is becoming clear that most secure waterways for world economy will be and there can be only these northern sea routes. And because of the global warming, it is becoming realistic to keep these northern sea routes open year-round, right? And that's what Russia is already doing, by the way. Russian northern sea route is almost fully open year-round. Russia has a strong enough icebreaker fleet, nuclear icebreakers, by the way, all sorts of icebreakers, right? And new generation icebreakers are about to be commissioned, right? Biggest ones and most powerful ones ever built. And those icebreakers are built especially to maintain northern sea route open always, right? Especially during the winter times. And as I already said, by the way, last year alone, up to 40 million tons of goods were transferred through Russian northern sea route, right? And obviously, as situation in the different parts of the world will most likely become more and more unstable, there will be higher and higher demand on this more secure and what is also very important, shortest sea routes that are in existence, which is the northern sea routes, right? Which is almost twice shorter than alternative that goes through Indian Ocean, then Red Sea, and then Mediterranean, right? Or yet another alternative that goes all around Africa, by the way, from, let's say, global south. So northern sea routes definitely have a huge potential. They are destined to become a main transportation directions for the world economy in upcoming decades. And the Western ruling class wants piece of it, right? They are observing progress of the Russia in this direction, and they also want part of it. And that's what is happening when U.S. leadership or Trump is talking about Greenland and Canada. It's all about northern sea routes. And by the way, when it comes to Panama, one should keep in mind that yes, Panama Channel, I mean, due to close proximity from US to Panama, US actually can secure Panama Channel. US can actually make sure that Panama Channel is secure, right? It has military capabilities for that. But when it comes to the rest of the world, I don't think US is in a position to maintain policing everywhere. It's becoming too costly for US. It is becoming too risky. And still, by the way, no matter, despite the US presence, certain areas already become practically fully shut down, completely shut down for navigation. For example, Red Sea. For how long US now is trying to keep at bay Yemeni Houthis and to prevent them from targeting vessels that are trying to pass through Red Sea. For how many months? And did they achieve much? Not really. Not really. And there major transportation companies worldwide are directing their goods instead of from Red Sea towards Africa, right? And then towards Europe, and vice versa. So that's what is happening, by the way. It's all about control over the safest waterways that will be in this world in decades to come, right? Which is the northern sea routes, and U.S. Leadership, Western ruling class wants piece of it because they see potential there, and they are obviously studying Russian experience. They are observing that transport of goods in Russian part of Northern Sea Route increasing very rapidly, and they are accelerating also now to create their own continuation of their Northern Sea Route that will be in the western part of this world, Europe, US, and of course US want to be, US will be put in charge of this route. And that's why Trump is that focused on Canada and Greenland, by the way. That's all it is, in my personal opinion. It's all about, yet again, it's all about money. It's all about power and control. It's always about this when it comes to all this geopolitical stuff, by the way. It's practically, let's say this way, it's practically always, maybe not 100%, but I guess 99%, it's always about money and power. So that is my vision of what is happening in regards to this latest activization of Trump and his team, that they're gonna establish control over the Canada or Greenland or Panama Channel and so on. And by the way, Denmark is trying to respond on these strong statements from Trump and his team, and their Danish foreign minister stated that Greenland may become independent, but Greenland will never become a US state. Well, that's a quite a compromise already on part of Denmark, isn't it? To say something like that. Because they know they cannot compete with their US, by the way, and the forces that are behind the Trump, right? They know it perfectly well. So what is the point to play around, right? So Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen expressed an opinion on the likelihood of Greenland's independence, while noting that their island is unlikely to won't become a part of the United States, although he admitted that yes, there is a possibility that Greenland may become independent state. So I guess Danish political class already been persuaded to give up on Greenland. Canada, by the way, in other hand, is a quite a different story. In our community, there are many Canadians, and they are expressing opinions in the comment section. And as you know, I'm one of the most active members of our community. I read comments and they're reacting on comments. And there are many members of our community from Canada are actually, even though they are not happy with Trudeau's government and Trudeau, they are not really that keen to become a part of US and citizens of US. They clearly want, as far as I understand, dear friends, based on comments that I read there, at least our friends from our community that are Canadian citizens, they want Canada to maintain its independence, right? But yet again, it's all about decision-making process among most powerful groups in the West, right? We can call it Western ruling class or whatever, but if they are determined to unite US and Canada, I guess that is going to happen. Or maybe some agreements will be reached between Washington and Ottawa, and the US will gain control over their sea route on Canada's coast. coastline. Maybe that's what will happen, and formally Canada will maintain independence. So all the operations in the coastal line areas, when it comes to transportation, will be controlled by US. Maybe that will be the compromise that sides will reach. I don't know, but right now, of course, tensions are high, and politicians in Canada, one after another, are making quite strong statements in response. Although, of course, they all understand that if US wants to, they can establish control over the Canada in matter of, I don't know, man, weeks, I guess. And weeks, because Canada is huge, by the way. It's the second biggest country in this world. I don't think Canadians will fight against US. I just don't see it, right? So Canadian troops will probably lay down arms straight away and surrender without any fight. Most of them, I guess. But anyways, right now there is a strong statements, and for example, this news on RT that there is a counter offer from Canada, by the way. How about we buy Alaska? Canadians are asking, including governor, by the way. So on that, Canada could buy the state of Alaska and Minnesota from America. The premier of Canadian province of Ontario, Doug Ford, has suggested in response to US President-elect Donald Trump's calls for a merge between the two countries. Canada is the greatest country in the world, and there is no way it will fail under the rule of Washington, Ford told journalists on Monday. Well, yet again, little bit irony, what about we buy Alaska or Minnesota? Okay, I can get that. Little bit of irony, and also, some over exaggeration of power of Canada. In other hand, when this person from Ontario is saying that Canada will never become controlled by Washington. I mean, never say never. US, even though US is considerably weak now than, let's say, in many ways, by the way. Social fabric in US is stretched in so many ways, right? US military is not in the best shape ever, for sure. There is significant issues with the militaries there, but still, by the way, it's a major economical and military power, right? And if they want to, if Washington really is determined to have control over their coastal line area of Canada to create this western northern sea route, then if it comes to military operation, as I said, man, just a couple of weeks and that's about it. And Canada will become part of US, and that's it. I really don't see Canadian army or citizens of Canada fighting their cousins, let's say, from US, right? But anyways, let's hope it will never come to real military hostilities between the sides, and situation will be resolved diplomatically. But one should always keep in mind that US, even in its decline, is still major economical and superpower and military superpower at this point in history. And political class in Canada should also keep that in mind, right? Anyways, let's continue, dear friends, and on almost the same topic, we have this report that EU foreign ministers plan to joint trip to US, according to Politico. The foreign ministers of France, Germany, and Poland are planning a joint trip to the US as a show of unity. Politico EU has reported while the visit is still at the planning stage and no date has been set, The trio wants to arrive shortly after January 20 inauguration of the President Donald Trump. Three EU diplomats told their outlet on conditions of anonymity on Wednesday. Joanne-Noël Barrot of France, Annalena Baerbock of Germany, and Radoslaw Sikorski of Poland might even be accompanied by EU foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas, according to two of their diplomats. The idea behind the trip would be to make a show of European unity. One of the diplomats said the EU has struggled to respond to Trump's talk on the US taking over Greenland, an Arctic island that is currently an autonomous territory of Denmark. The Danish government has ruled out selling their island and suggested it would be unacceptable for the US to take it from the fellow NATO member by force. And by the way, I mean, there is quite stuff to unpack here. First of all, about unity in Europe. I mean, you're gonna send French, German, and Polish foreign ministers to demonstrate unity. I mean, this is a joke, some sort of. Poland was never a true ally of France or Germany, by the way, right? Poland, Warsaw, historically speaking, Polish elites always were allies with London and now with Washington, right? So what the hell is going on in Europe, by the way? This is, I mean, such a disarray, isn't it, in EU? I don't know, man. This is crazy. Poland is actually one may even consider quasi-state of US in middle of Europe, right? Middle geographically speaking, because many people in this world probably under being influenced by propaganda are not even realizing that Europe is much bigger than EU. And right now I am in Europe, right? Moscow is a European city, and geographically speaking, Europe is ending where Urals mountains are in Russia, far, far away eastwards from Moscow. So yes, Poland, geographically speaking, is a Central Europe, right? But it is never been ally of true ally of Berlin or Paris, even since the collapse of Soviet Union, let's say, and Warsaw Pact. Poland or Warsaw always was ally with and controlled. Let's be clear here. Warsaw always was and most likely will be controlled by London and Washington. So presence of a Polish foreign minister definitely not tells anything about unity in Europe to Trump or his inner circle, right? That's the first point. That's the first point. And when it comes to this second point of US ambitions in regards to, or Trump's ambitions in regards to Greenland, yet again, man, US is a major force in a collective West, and all these other states, I mean, they chose to be assistants of US, right? Not their partners, true partners, but sort of assistants, right? And therefore, I don't think U.S. political class even capable of taking them seriously. I don't think U.S. political class that for decades and decades were seeing this European or Western European or EU politicians as their puppets, right? I don't think they are really capable to take them seriously. I mean, you tell me what you think, dear friends. I mean, I don't know. From statements you hear, I mean, it is becoming clear that, I mean, they have no respect for European political class, by the way. Not at all, right? Western European or EU political class, let's say. They don't see them as same level politicians. They see them as their assistants or their puppets. I don't know, because many of them are, by the way. I'm quite sure all these personalities, all of them have some ties with CIA, right? Kaja Kallas, Annalena Baerbock. I mean, Green Party in Germany was created by CIA. What we are talking about here, right? And I think same goes for all the other politicians. I mean, in EU, majority, let's say. I'm quite sure they have some sort of connections with their British or US political class and their secret services, and are influenced by them big time. So yes, I mean, quite a poor attempt, let's say, on part of Brussels and their EU politicians to say something about these ambitions of Trump to overtake Greenland. I mean, I did not even expect anything more, by the way, to be clear on that. They are just, you know. Anyways, let's continue, dear friends, and I will end this update on this information that government of Armenia approved their draft bill about Armenia's ambitions to become a EU member state. Let's translate this news. Nothing extraordinary, dear friends. Of course, veterans of our community know perfectly well that I was saying that Armenia is actually controlled by their, West, US, and its allies like France, for example, since the day that Pashinyan was elected there. And it is the case. I was saying that gradually Armenia will move towards the West and will destroy whatever ties it had with Russia. That's exactly what Pashinyan's regime is doing, right? And now this information, which is absolutely not comes as a surprise for our community, but for some other people, this might be a surprise that Armenian government has supported the legislative initiative of pro-Western forces to start their process of Armenia's accession to the European Union, which will be considered by the parliament to approve the proposal of the government of the Republic of Armenia on the draw law on the beginning of the process of Armenia's accession to the European Union. Submit the government's proposal to the National Assembly Parliament staff in accordance with their established procedure needs the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers, the draft of which was represented by the country's Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan. So basically, I mean, this is all obviously pre-planned stuff, and I have no doubts that Armenian parliament will vote for this such a law, and Yerevan will officially declare that their aspiration is to join EU. And by the way, this is not all. Just give it a little time, and probably very same Pashinyan's regime will say that now Armenia's aspirations are to also join NATO, or to become as close to NATO as it technically possible, right? To become partner of the NATO, like let's say South Korea or Japan, right? That are enjoying NATO security umbrella. And yes, it was expected, by the way. No surprises for us. I think Armenian leadership are making crucial mistake because I'm not sure Armenia will survive this wild ride that Pashinyan's regime is directing this country towards to, but it's time will tell. No surprises for us for sure. And dear friends, I will end this update on this news. Wow, it's a relatively long update. For quite a while, I did not have updates more than an hour. Today it is. But anyways, hopefully you will find this update informative, interesting, useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. any topic. I mean, this is the only way we can try and influence the algorithm. For very same reason, if you can please share information about my channel on internet or in real life, links to my videos and so on. And your friends, if you like my work, if you like my channels, if you think I deserve to be in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with donation through PayPal, Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment, including crypto wallet too. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care.